Hello, everyone. It would appear the news keeps on rolling about technology. I'll do my best to explain the news here going on. Be aware that I'm oversimplifying and doing my best to make it as easy to understand as possible. Therefore, I am not going to get too technical. Okay, starting with basics. All hardware has software involved at some given point, pending application and many other factors. In this particular case, we are talking about architectures. Architectures, depending on what they're used for, can be an instruction set or something else. In this case, I do believe all these are instruction sets, but I would recommend reading articles on these if you want to know more. Okay, with the basics out of the way, Nvidia is buying ARM. ARM is used in many applications right now. I do believe it's used in Android and I think Mac. Those are the ones that I can remember anyways. So it's a pretty big deal that Nvidia is buying something that affects so much of the market due to a market and historical standpoint. Nvidia has had control of the video card market for quite some time. Not complete control, but a pretty good amount of control. Unfortunately, that's partly due to AMD's video cards not really competing with Nvidia like we would hope. Secondary to the market problem, we do have people who are not happy with this purchase, as you can see with that comment down there. Absolute disaster for Cambridge, right there. So, but I would say another big factor to the market is the potential drive. If Nvidia does this, and I'm not sure if they will, but there is a chance that they could drive people out of some platforms because they don't want to deal with it. If Nvidia forces developers to move to other platforms, then it will result in pretty big changes. I'll go and discuss one right now. This is RISC-V. It was a Berkeley project, but it gained a lot of traction over the last couple of years. It's an open-sourced, royalty-free instruction set architecture. Here's a list of what's being used for that. I know Wikipedia is not a good website to source, but I do recognize that a good portion of this list is correct. So you'll see that there's big companies here like Western Digital and even Nvidia itself. Western Digital is using their own implementation of it, is what I understand from what I've read in the past. Nvidia plans to use it to replace their Falcon processors. As you can see, it's very powerful for what it is at its current state, but it will still be some time before it could potentially be a processor for gaming. Right now, that's going to be Intel i5, i7, and of course Ryzen 5 and 7 for gaming. So until it can gain enough power to replace one of those, then we won't be seeing it in gaming, but we can see it in other areas. Assuming that this drive forces developers to go to RISC-V, there is one other possibility that will happen. It will be paired with Vulkan. I've done extensive reading on Vulkan, and it's a very complicated matter. Some of it's open source, some of it isn't. There are licenses to certain aspects of Vulkan, depending which part of it you're talking about. The SDK, or software developer kit, is open sourced. Some of the other stuff, though, is licensed. The reason that this would be paired with RISC-V is because it's going to be a lot easier to get hold of than, say, DirectX. DirectX would be the equivalent of Vulkan, basically. DirectX is owned by Microsoft, so you would have to go through Microsoft to get it. But Vulkan is a completely different company, so you would have a better chance of getting Vulkan than DirectX from Microsoft. Vulkan has already been used for a couple of applications. I've mentioned it in my prior recording with Windows 10 AME, but for those who haven't watched it, Vulkan was successfully used for Doom, the most recent one. And I'm sure there's other applications that I'm not aware of where it's been used, but Doom is perhaps the big one. Vulkan is also supported by many platforms, which does make things great for gaming and other purposes. In a nutshell, that's kind of why I'm thinking Vulkan will be paired with RISC-V. Though we'll have to see what happens, because this all depends on if there's going to be a drive to move to these platforms or softwares. Only time can tell as to what will happen. But for now, that's really all I can say on the matter. I'll let you do your own reading with any of this. Thanks for listening.